Thanks again and welcome to this, our public portion of the AGM. I would like to pass the next piece of the meeting on to Beth. Most of you know Beth Houston, the chair of G.A.P. So over to you, Beth, for your remarks.
Thank you very much, Peggyann, and welcome to everybody. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to host as disabled participant screen. Sandra, you have to enable me to show my screen again, please. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to roll. I hope everybody can see my screen. While I'm speaking, there will be some photos highlighting what's happening at G.A.P. Enjoy the pictures, but remember that you still have to listen to me while I'm speaking. I'm a retired educator, so it's been a long time since I've had the pleasure of having so many people just sitting there listening to me, and I like it. The financial report, the G.A.P financial report for the fiscal year ending March 31st was prepared by Teresa Morley Accounting Services, approved by the steering committee, and available upon request at our office. Thanks to our treasurers, Peggyann and Peter, for putting so many hours into creating such amazing financials for us that made Teresa's job a lot easier. 5 years ago, a group of concerned citizens, along with various organizations in the community, gathered to create a united front in the battle to reduce homelessness, hunger, and hurt. Gravenhurst Against Poverty was born. You will notice throughout my talk that I regularly refer to neighbors. We consider people who are in need of our services to be our neighbors. G.A.P has never been about the haves giving to the have-nots. It's about everybody in Gravenhurst coming together to make our community a safe space where everybody has a chance to prosper. And something has happened to my videos. 1 second, please. There we go. I'm going to run you through a week of what happens at G.A.P. Food rescue happens 5 days a week. We have a crew of people who pick up from grocery stores and restaurants. We also have people who randomly drop off fresh and/or perishable products for us. We have crews who sort and store all of the intake. The G.A.P gardens, and there are over 40 garden plots around town this year, start as seedlings in volunteer homes and then are sent off to permanent sites at the garden party held in the spring. The gardens that are on our site were set up with the help of our friends from the Circles program. So far this year, we have harvested 617 pounds of produce. We have been a presence at the Gravenhurst Farmers Market since its inception. We increase awareness about poverty in town, but our organization, we make contacts, we record and provide important stats for the market, and graciously accept donations of money as well as leftover produce from the market. On Tuesdays, we provide hot lunches on a drop-in or pick-up basis and have had up to 100 meals going out at one time. Our dream is to have a sit-down meal for everybody in the community, and to that end, have just started inviting people to sit down and share their and share their pickup meal rather than taking it away. Shared meals are the best ways to develop connections. We had a sit-down meal today, and last week we only had a couple of people stay. This week we had about 8 people stay, and I think it's just going to grow from here. On Thursday, our Thursday food delivery and pickup has risen to over 640 people per week. Each bag contains a meal, extra vegetables and fruit, eggs, and non-perishable items. We received frozen meals from the Red Cross for about 8 months, and when that ended, we switched to preparing meals on site. We also provide healthy snacks that we send over to the library. The Young Adult Center, whoops, let's start with that one.
I'm really, really super sorry. I think we have some people in the waiting room, and I'm not sure if you have the ability to let them in, Beth, since you're the host.
Okay, just one sec. Oh, one of them, Sandra Holdsworth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I apologize. Please continue.
Okay. As most of you will know, a few years ago, we started raising money to buy a building to have a hub for Gravenhurst Against Poverty. And one of our dreams was to set up a youth center. We're now renting rooms in the basement of Trinity United Church, and one of the rooms we've dedicated to the Young Adult Center. This is the room, and it's been running in person weekly on Friday nights. We've averaged 10 to 15 young people aged 12 to 18, and the nights. See now what you did to me, Barbara. The nights include dinner and an activity. They've had local artists or drama instructors come in. They've done games in the park. They have music nights. They have craft nights. They have cooking nights. And these are some of our young people enjoying the activities. That was tie-dye. And over to Gull Lake Park. Every Wednesday, we host a drop-in coffee social, averaging about 15 people. We've set up a meeting room for anybody who wants private conversations, and we have a social worker who comes in every other week. She joins in the coffee social, and she'll have conversations with people as needed. On Tuesday afternoons, we have a drop-in art space as well that is in the Young Adult Center. On Fridays, we have a community kitchen that began last year where people can learn to cook on a budget. The initial group was 5 people, and the session began just last week with 9 people registered. The cooks take home whatever they make, and last spring they prepared and served an amazing meal for some of our sponsors and volunteers. It's very exciting to see the growth in the participants of the program. For transportation assistance, we give up to $100 in free taxi cards per household per month. We also receive grants for gas cards, which we distribute to neighbors with vehicles. Last spring, we celebrated our 5-year anniversary. We've come a long way. We created posters that have been evident throughout this presentation, and signs to show people that what we offer and how they can fit into our programs. One of our signs says, "It really does take a village," and it lists the businesses, organizations, foundations, families, and financial supporters. Some community members offer services. We have listed most, but there are always new supports coming forward. We're so grateful to the people who help us help others. Oh, and that's a random picture of Patty and Peter doing some work. We don't have anybody right now who volunteers to be a cleaner. So if you know of anybody who wants to volunteer to be a cleaner, that would be awesome. And this is back to donors again. Our major fundraising event is the Coldest Night of the Year Walk, held in February. The 145,000 that we raised will go a long way, but it's the community spirit that excites me. We had over 40 sponsors from town, and roughly 400 people walked and or volunteered in the event. Volunteers are the backbone of G.A.P. They cover every aspect of our work, diligently showing up day after day with smiles on our faces. Judy Campbell has been our grant writer for a number of years and has moved to be closer to family. Jerry Lawrence has also worked for many years with us and has moved to be closer to his family. Brenda Gavitas, of course, is the Gravenhurst Senior of the Year and is a volunteer at G.A.P. Some volunteers put in 3 hours a week, some as many as 40 hours a week. We appreciate them all equally. Without one cog in the wheel, we could not offer the services that we do. Whoops, not done. The vast majority of our funding goes directly into food or programs that we offer our neighbors. With the money from the Community Service Recovery Fund, we were able to improve the infrastructure of Trinity United Church, where our offices are housed, by upgrading the electrical panel. The upgraded panel will allow us to increase our use in the kitchen, create stations for computer gaming and television in the youth center, and provide the power to refrigerate and freeze our food items. In addition, we are able to purchase computers, scanners, printers, and a smart television for the use as well as office use, for the youth as well as office use. One step at a time, we're fulfilling the vision we have for making G.A.P a hub for all of our neighbors to feel welcome and have their needs met. I would now like to introduce the members of the directors and the members of the steering committee. So we have 6 directors for G.A.P right now. I'm chair. Bonnie Dart is past chair. Peter Stoltman is vice chair and treasurer. What happened there? Peggyann Boudreau is vice chair, transportation lead, and wellness lead. David Minns is food program lead, and John Twist is the volunteer wellness lead. So those are our directors. The steering committee is made up of those people, as well as Patty Ferrari, who's our office admin. Kelly Jones is our lived experience lead. Dave Minns, we did Dave and John. Marie Little is our Thursday food program coordinator. James Curry is our new grant coordinator. And Barbara McNeese Stallard is our secretary. Coming off the steering committee, and much thanks for all of the hard work that they did for us. Carol Aberdeen, Judy Campbell, Des Doolittle, Autumn Smith, Phil Tomasetti, and Lauren Vanderdusen. And I believe that ends my time, Peggyann.
Thank you, Beth. For those of you on the call tonight that have not had a day or an experience at G.A.P, please feel free to come in. We're in the office from 9:30 to 3:30, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if you ever doubted that you live in a great community filled with people with compassion for their neighbors, come and see us. So at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Bonnie Dart, our past chair. Many of you have known Bonnie for many years, who is going to introduce Lynn DeCaro.
Before Bonnie does that, I just want to do a check-in with Sandra, the real Sandra Holdsworth. Do we have anybody else waiting in the waiting room that you need to address?
Yeah, I let them in. That's why I took back them in. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. And you'll give it to control back over to Lynn so she can do her presentation?
Yes, I will after Bonnie does the part that she's doing. Were you doing something, Bonnie? Yes.
I am. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's a lovely honor for me to be able to introduce our guest speaker to you. Lynn DeCaro has been the Executive Director of the Muskoka Community Foundation since 2016. Throughout those years, she has worked very closely with a wide range of service organizations, charities, and not-for-profits. That experience has brought her to the forefront of addressing the profound needs of our Muskoka communities. We at G.A.P are deeply grateful to Lynn for her ongoing support of our mission to help neighbors in need. In our early beginnings, she would call our office and check in to see how we were doing and encouraged us to apply for available grants. She fully recognized our challenges. Lynn offered her genuine support as we struggled to keep pace with our rapid growth and the increased demands brought on during the pandemic. She has thoughtfully matched the interests of Muskoka Community Foundation donors to the specific programs that G.A.P was developing. Lynn has a remarkable passion for helping others. She has been a true champion of the accomplishments of Gravenhurst Against Poverty at every milestone along the way. Please join me, everyone, in a special welcome to our AGM guest speaker this evening. Lynn, we are really looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Wow, thank you so much, Bonnie. That was lovely, and I'm very honored to be here today to speak to the members of G.A.P. I feel like I know so many of you, but it's quite evident from Beth's presentation that there are so many G.A.P members that I've not had the pleasure of meeting yet, and I look forward to being able to do that over the next several years. Okay, so I'm going to work really hard at sharing my screen. Let's see how this goes. I felt pretty confident that I came in not as Sandra Holdsworth, but I could need some assistance when doing this PowerPoint.
You are host, Lynn, so it should be good.
Okay, let me find it here. I had it already on my desktop, but I'm not seeing it here. Hang on 1 second.
Let me know if you need help and I can pull it up.
Sandra, I might need to do that. Let me just try one more time. I don't want to hold this up, but let me try one more time just to see if I can get this on my screen. Oh, there we go. We might have it. There we are. Okay.
Excellent. You just need to put it in presentation, then you're all good.
Is that okay?
If you want to put it in presentation mode, under view, or on the far left, I think is there.
This is the trouble with all the screens, isn't it? I mean, let's see here. Presentation mode.
There's always 12 different ways to do something. So there you go, Lynn. You got it.
You
Yep.
got it. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, if not, they can always just make their screen bigger.
Okay, all right, it's filling my screen fully, but I can't see any other speakers, so I'm just not sure what you're seeing. But I'll go ahead, and if you need me to adjust, or I'm happy to do that. So the Muskoka Community Foundation, we were founded in 2007 by a group of wonderful community members that came together over a coffee. I believe it was in Gravenhurst, and Mr. Durnan is here today. He's showing up on my screen prominently, and Mr. Durnan Gord was one of those founding members of the Muskoka Community Foundation. So our goal, our purpose, is to help donors reach their philanthropic goals while connecting them to the important roles that charities play in supporting Muskoka. And we currently administer $1.8 million across 20 endowed and flow-through funds. And since 2007, we've dispersed more than $1 million in grants to registered charities in Muskoka and surrounding areas. And part of that $1 million that's been dispersed as grants includes the national granting programs that we're so fortunate to be able to participate in to bring federal funds to the community. Currently, all of our funds are pooled and invested with TD Wealth Management, and we've been with TD since 2018. So just
Excuse
a quick,
me one sec, Lynn.
yes?
It's not advancing, so
Okay. You know
I
what?
think you needed to click one more, because right now we can still see. There we go. Maybe.
You see it if I advance it this way?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, sorry about that. I've had difficulty before in screen share mode, or in presentation mode. So we'll just keep it like this. All right, so here we go. So I've been, as Bonnie said, I've been with the Muskoka Community Foundation since 2016, and my role is to do all of the things. And I'm very envious when I get to speak with the different members of GAP. I wish I had half of your members helping me out on a daily basis. I work 20 hours a week, and I spread that over the work week. And sometimes I work a little bit more, depending on if we have special projects on the go. And just a quick overview of our board of directors. You'll notice that Bob Collins, who I believe is one of your food delivery volunteers, Bob is also on our board and is our new treasurer. So some of the ways that we help facilitate the connection between the issues that are happening in Muskoka to our donors and prospective donors is through our vital signs report. And in 2017, we started to explore whether or not we could find enough local data to produce a report. So we started exploring in 2017 by inviting a variety of organizations to come together in what we called vital conversations. And we wanted to know first, what are the issues and trends that those communities service organizations saw as important to convey to the broader public. And we wanted to know what local data they might have. As many of you, some of you might not be aware, but finding data specific to Muskoka is very challenging. StatsCan, does have data there, but we wanted something a bit more, not a macro view of Muskoka, but we wanted to delve into more specifics. And so we had to really start thinking about who has local data. So it was really, really helpful to be able to have these conversations and at the same time identify that sometimes there isn't data, that we have a gap in data. And that's really important as we continue to have conversations with our local politicians, to advocate for a collection of data that will help us have a fuller picture of what's happening in Muskoka. And so some of those challenges we face is that, for example, our health unit, we're captured in with Simcoe and Muskoka. Healthcare sometimes is split depending on the service. They might receive funding from the Northern Lynn or the, kind of the Central Ontario Lynns. So that was part of our work in 2017, is who could help us populate a vital signs report. And we were really excited with the amount of information that came to us from different community service organizations, as well as the District of Muskoka, which continues to provide us with the majority of data that you will see in each of our reports. So 2018 was our first report, and our plan was to do one every second year. And we felt doing a vital signs report every second year was important for two reasons. One, the capacity of the Muskoka Community Foundation to do it annually would be challenging. And the second is that we were concerned that statistics and data might not change enough over a one-year period to really warrant having a second report, or sorry, to have an annual report. And so what we found is that by doing it every other year, it gives us the opportunity to continue speaking with community service organizations through a variety of ways to determine if we're aware of all the issues and trends in certain issues, you know, making sure that we're aware of what's happening. And so when we do a vital signs report, the information we're putting in there is meaningful and impactful to the reader. And so our first report was in 2018. We were slated to do our second report in 2020, but due to the pandemic, we postponed the 2020 report and instead published our 2021 report, which came out late in the year and really started to get distributed in 2022. This year, we are in the middle of getting our 2023 Vital Signs report together. And I just want to kind of highlight the cover of our 2023 Vital Signs report. This was completed by the art students at Gravenhurst High School. I asked the students if they would contribute, or I asked Amay Bullock, the art teacher at Gravenhurst High School, if her students would be interested in creating the cover. And the reason for that was that in 2020, the 2021 report was adopted by the Gravenhurst High School, and 3 copies went to them. 2 remain in the library so that any teacher can check them out at any time for their class, or that they're available for students as they might see that they might impact or inform a project or an assignment they're working on. And so I really love this 2023 Vital Signs report cover. The process, if anyone followed on our social media, the process of making this piece of art was really interesting. So Ms. Bullock took a photo of a windswept pine overlooking the rock that we're so familiar with here in Muskoka, looking out over the water. And she blew it up and she made it into a grid pattern. And each student got to pick 4 pieces of the grid. And once they had their 4 pieces, they set out to carve those or set the image into clay. And once that was finished, then the clay was put together and it was fired in the kiln, and then the students got to paint it. And what happened as a result of that is that all the students brought their individual pieces together and created this beautiful piece of art. And it reminds me so much of the work we see that happens in Muskoka. And it reminds me of the dedication and commitment that so many volunteers, such as here at G.A.P, bring to the organization and bring to their community to create this beautiful effort of collaboration. And so we're really excited to get that out widely to the Muskoka community and beyond. And so some of the things that we're thinking about in the 2023 Vital Signs report are the environment. So each year we have core themes that inform our Vital Signs report, and then from time to time we'll switch out a couple and bring in some new topics. The environment is always one of our core themes that we keep in the Vital Signs report. And people have asked why we do that. It kind of is an outlier when you look at the rest of the report. With economic health and income security, housing, food security, health and wellness. But Muskoka's environment is so important. It's important for us to consider the impacts that climate change have on Muskoka's economic health. It's important that we think about the environment and who has access and who doesn't have access to the wonderful water and lakes that we have here in Muskoka. And it also reminds us the impacts that climate change may have on the health and wellness of so many of our community members. So that's why that's always there. And so we're going to be focusing on climate change as it relates to the Muskoka's economy, health, and who has public access. We'll continue to look at economic health, trying to understand labor participation, labor shortages, what is required, the amount that is required to make a living wage. We know the pressures that so many of our neighbors are being faced with during this economic uncertainty, not only here in Muskoka, but regionally and provincially. And we'll continue to look at housing, access to safe and affordable housing, the impact of economic health and income security on homelessness and what that means in Muskoka, and food security. We all know the increase of food prices, and I'm sure I don't have to tell those who are listening today that the role that food security programs play in supporting our community members. And health and wellness, what's happening around mental health, the impacts of mental health, the opioid crisis, and so on. So these are some of the topics that we're going to be covering in our report, and we look forward to reaching out to our community service organizations as we try to collect the most relevant and current data on many of these topics. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, the national granting programs that we have been fortunate enough to participate in. When we participate in national granting programs, the District of Muskoka the District of Parry Sound is included in our catchment area, as we're the closest community foundation for the District of Parry Sound. So in 2020, we were able to access the Community Emergency Support Fund, which was a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was a partnership, a national collaboration between the Community Foundations of Canada, the Canadian Red Cross, and the United Way Centraid Canada. And this was a very fast-moving program. It was rolled out very quickly, and we got to work very closely with our United Way colleagues to help bring much needed dollars to help charities and not-for-profits as they had to very quickly pivot, a word we've all heard so much, we haven't used as much lately, but had to pivot their services and reconfigure the way they delivered their services. Much like G.A.P, moving from, sit-down dinners to food delivery. In 2021 and 2022, we were able to participate in the Healthy Communities Initiative. And this was a bit different for the Muskoka Community Foundation. This was a regional initiative that covered the central and eastern portions of Ontario, as well as across the country. But our region was central, that Muskoka was included in, was central and eastern Ontario. And my colleague, Sarah Ingram from the Barrie Community Foundation, and I worked together to be the co-leads in delivering this program throughout Central and Eastern Ontario. And this initiative was all about creating safe spaces. As we moved through the pandemic, we realized the importance of safe and healthy spaces, whether that be indoors, whether that be outdoors, or whether that be shifting to more robust online services. And so that was a very heavily subscribed program that we were happy to see that 5 organizations in the districts of Muskoka and Parry Sound were able to access funding from this program. And then in 2023, we've just concluded the Community Recovery Support Fund, The 10 organizations across Muskoka and Parry Sound are in the middle of implementing the projects that they received funding for. As Beth mentioned, G.A.P was a recipient of a Community Recovery Support Fund grant and is doing some really important work on upgrading the electrical panel and access and different types of equipment that you need, that G.A.P needs to be efficient in delivering your services and coordinating your amazing volunteers that help you deliver all the different programs that you offer. One of the interesting things that we have, my colleagues in my neighboring community foundations have learned as we've gone through these national granting programs is the really distinct need of rural communities and charities and not-for-profits operating in rural communities. And so being able to participate in these programs has given us a collective voice to go to the Community Foundations of Canada, who help facilitate these national grants on our behalf, to really have conversations, meaningful conversations about what it looks like, or what it is, the experience of rural not-for-profits and charities when they try accessing these granting programs. And that, you know, often there's a lot of outside the box thinking to deliver programs that impact the community in a positive way. And so that our conversations we have with our national partners is that the applications, the parameters around you know, a project and eligibility of a project need to take that into consideration. And so those are conversations that we've continued to have and have had the opportunity to discuss at national forums as well. So I noticed that Beth had a few of these pictures in her presentation as she was going through all the great things happening at G.A.P. But we've been very, very privileged to learn about G.A.P, to support G.A.P through a variety of different granting programs, matching donors to G.A.P to be able to support their programs. And you know, I also have, I've also used G.A.P as an example when speaking with newer charities and not-for-profits that are just in the beginning of getting their organizations off the ground and are looking at ways that they can incorporate the amazing talents, passions, and dedication of volunteers. And I'm regularly directing new organizations to take a look at the work that G.A.P does, because you're an amazing example of what it means to have volunteers take great pride in supporting their community and take great pride in supporting their neighbors and making sure that no one is left behind. So I applaud all that you do in that regard. And you know, some of the ways you know, Bonnie and I dressed up on a cool spring day, winter day, actually, as one of our special donors felt it was really important to support G.A.P and was moved by the work that G.A.P has been doing over the years. Supporting the Young Adult Center. Right from the beginning, we were able to match 2 of our funds to provide that initial support. And it's been amazing how you haven't been deterred when the plans to purchase a standalone building didn't happen, and how you just continued on and saw the importance of connecting with youth and making sure youth felt that they had a voice and a safe place. And so we were very honored to be able to support the Young Adult Center. And then Peter and Peggyann and I, on a beautiful warm day, that was the Community Services Recovery Fund grant that we got to present. And then down below, I'm not sure who this individual was, and Beth, I saw this in your presentation as well, but, you know, very early on, the transportation program, and being able to provide a small grant to kind of start that pilot project off, and to see where it's growing today is amazing. And being able to connect that particular program, the transportation program, with one of our donors who had been looking for a similar opportunity and has been very pleased to support that program over the years. So those are just some of the financial ways that we've been able to support the work at G.A.P. But I have to say that G.A.P. also supports the work of the Muskoka Community Foundation by being so open to sharing information, to meeting with our donors. I recall asking Bonnie for a meeting with one of our donors, and 5 G.A.P. members showed up so that every question could be answered in that one meeting, and I was so impressed by that. So thank you for helping us as well, and sharing the work that you do. Whenever I pick up the phone or send an email, I know I'm going to get great information that I can share with donors in the community alike. And, you know, just some of the other funds at the Muskoka Community Foundation, how we've been able to support the community at large. We've been able to support hospice, the Alex's Place in the youth transitional housing project that happens out of Bracebridge. Small grants that have big impact, such as this one right here, where we're giving a small grant to One Kid's Place so they could implement a special swimming program across Gravenhurst and Bracebridge. Mind Aid, which is another amazing organization, and I know you work very closely with Desiree and Jody North. Again, a small amount of funding, but a big impact down here in the bottom left corner, supporting, you know, Ride Co-op and creating an ice surface so that young people had a place to be in the winter and to be outdoors during a time where being indoors wasn't always the best option. And just down here in the corner, supporting the Little Sprouts Eco Club, working to learn and become stewards of the Muskoka environment. And so those are just a few of the ways. We have bursary funds that support a number of students. The South and Central Almaguin Fund, of course, north of Muskoka, but we are so fortunate to be able to support the work that donor does, and since 2017 supporting 28 students, and we have other bursaries as well. And then just a variety of organizations, and these are just a few that I could get pictures of, but there's so many amazing community service organizations that do such important work across Muskoka, and we're very happy to support them the best that we can. And just where we promote the work of the foundation and Muskoka's charitable sector, it's really important to the Muskoka Community Foundation. While we're funders, it's really, really important that the work of Muskoka's charitable sector is highlighted whenever possible. It's important that the work you do is celebrated. It's important that the work you do is recognized as being foundational in creating a healthy and vibrant Muskoka. So we try to do that through our social media channels on Facebook and Instagram. One of our board members, Tina Kilborn, is now writing a monthly column where we're just putting a spotlight on philanthropy and what that might look like in Muskoka. And every time Tina and I sit down to talk about what our monthly column is going to be, we're always amazed at just the breadth of philanthropic work that is done here in Muskoka, whether we're speaking about volunteers, whether we're speaking about young people who see a need and they jump in with both feet to raise funds or to create awareness. And so whenever we can, we are always so pleased to celebrate philanthropy in Muskoka. I don't have much more to add other than thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you so very much for the work that you all do. It's hard to believe that it's only been 5 years. The way that G.A.P operates, I think you could put a lot of corporations to shame with how organized you are, how focused you are, how quickly you're able to meet the needs of your community. And so I would like to thank you for all the work that you have done over the last 5 years. And I am so excited to follow along on your journey and see what you accomplish over the next 5 years and beyond. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's I don't know if on the agenda it had Peggyann as saying thank you to you, but that's been handed over to me. Before I say a few words, I did want to just turn it over to everyone to see if there were any questions for you specifically. So, are there any questions for Lynn? Peggyann? I can't see everybody, by the way. I've got maybe 15 or 20. If there are more people, you may just have to speak up. I see a hand raised, but I'll start with Peggyann and then Bonnie.
It's not a question, but I just want you to know, Lynn, that from a G.A.P point of view, it's wonderful to know that advocacy on everyone's behalf is being done by such a respected organization. Sometimes when we do this work, we think we're doing it alone, and you indicated really clearly that it's many of us doing work for the entire community. So thank you for all the advocacy on behalf of our neighbors.
You're most welcome.
Bonnie, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just gonna say it was wonderful. Your presentation was wonderful, Lynn. It's so nice to see the scope of where you're reaching out in the communities around Muskoka. I wanted to ask, I'm excited about the cover of the new vital signs, and I just wondered when you thought roughly it might be ready for. I know we saw a preview one time before it actually got published, but
yeah, my goal is November, mid-November of this year, if everything stays on schedule. And as we get close and you know, one of the challenges is just compiling all of that information and then double checking it and making sure that our contributors are getting a chance to make sure that we have indeed represented their data correctly. So as long as everything moves as according to plan, I'm hoping mid-November. Definitely by the end of November is ideal. And then yes, as we've confirming that data, then we'll start letting out little you know, little sneak peeks of what's going to happen through our social media pages. And then of course the report is available once it's available. Always happy to get as many copies, hard copies, digital copies to you as you might see fit to distribute.
awesome. And I'll just let you know too that we're working on, we had the impact report 2021, and we're working on another booklet, information booklet. We're not calling it an impact report at this point, but just so you know, that's in the works.
Okay, great. Well, my to-do list for next week is to start reaching out and working on the food security section. So I'll be reaching out to probably a whole bunch of you. I'll start with Beth, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Good. On my iPad, I can see maybe 20 screens, including myself. So I'm not sure if more are still on. And if there are other hands that are raised that I can't see, or if there are any questions, please speak up. If I don't see you putting your hand up. Are there any more questions or comments for Lynn? No, all right. Well, Lynn, thank you very much. Incredibly informative. I know a little bit about Muskoka Community Foundation through our connection and reading Vital Signs for the first two issues that came out, and I've learned a lot. And you said that you're grateful, appreciative of the work that GAP does. Well, we're certainly very appreciative of what you do and the support you've given us. And I think much of what you do, like I made a couple of notes that I think stood out for me. And you talked about out of the box thinking. You talked about focusing on rural needs and coming together earlier in your presentation. And those all resonated with me in terms of what we do. So, there's a good connection between what you're ultimately doing and what we're trying to do as well. So I think that we work well together because of like-minded thinking and knowing who we're trying to serve. So thank you so very much for today and for presenting to us at our AGM.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
So I do have just now, for everyone that's still on, do you have any questions for us at GAP that you might want to ask? If you could, lost my screen here. So does anyone have any questions, just general questions for GAP or anything specific that some of us could answer? Again, I can see a show of hands, or if there's nothing, let me know. All right. Well, on that note, thank you for attending our annual general meeting, and this brings our meeting to a close. Thank you so much for attending.